welcome to our second keynote speaker of our SUPCE conference. I am honored and happy to present to you our speaker, Dr. Cissy Reynolds-Perez, who is a graduate of Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where she earned her doctorate degree in educational leadership. She is now the Superintendent of Kingsville ISD, which happens to be her hometown. So she is happy to be back at her hometown to lead the district into the next phase of education. While serving as a school principal, she was elected as a Texas High School Principal of the Year, HEB Elementary Principal of the Year, Hispanic Women's Network Award, and the YWCA Why Women in Careers Award. At Ray High School, Dr. Perez invited over 2,000 of her students to write letters to her to share their concerns and recommendations about school safety after the Parkland and Santa Fe school shootings. She told her students, "This is your world, and we adults need to hear your ideas about how to prevent school shootings." Dr. Perez hosted the first legislative panel in a Texas high school focused on school safety that included several hundred students and 3 state legislators. She has presented on the subject of school safety and suicide prevention at state and national conferences. Dr. Perez believes that she has worked with some of the best educators, students, and parents at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, and that she and her teams transformed those schools from low performing to recognized and distinction status. Dr. Perez's most daunting challenge as a new superintendent is going to be to turn around the trajectory of Kingsville ISD. She is a team player, and she believes that teamwork works and faith makes all the difference. We're so happy to have with us today Dr. Cissy Reynolds-Perez.
Hello, TAMU-CC Islanders. I am Dr. Cissy Reynolds-Perez, and I'm actually an alumni from TAMU-CC, so I'm so happy to be here with you. To all your future educators, I'm so glad that you're going into education, because we need some dedicated teachers and educators throughout the nation, throughout the world. So thank you for serving on this mission. I'm going to share with you just a little bit of wisdom from being an educator all my life. And it's going to be based on building a positive culture as a leader. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Okay. And let's look at slideshow. Okay. And I think we are ready to go. Here's a little music, a little Beatles, just to get us in the mood. Take a sip of my Dr. Pepper.
Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright.
Okay, now down to business, now that we're all comfortable. First of all, here's just a little bit about me. I've been in education over 30 years, and right now I'm the Kingsville ISD Superintendent. I used to be the assistant superintendent of West Oso ISD, and I've been a school principal at the high school, middle school, and elementary level. Okay, I've been a part of the board of directors for the Texas School Safety Center that Governor Abbott appointed me to, and some other things I've accomplished. So anyway, let's go on. I'm at Kingsville ISD, and this is where I was raised. Actually, it's my hometown. So when I say once a Brahma, always a Brahma, I actually mean it, okay? So there I am in my yearbook, and here I am with looks like the same hairdo, so I think I need to change my hairdo. Anyway, that's for another time. But just to let you know, I am a Brahma, so if any of y'all are from small towns, we got a lot in common for sure. One thing you're going to hear me say a lot is teamwork works, okay? I really believe it. And part of your team should be formed by you through your faith, which I have a lot of faith, through your family, through your friends, and also your faculty and staff are a big part of your team. One thing I always say is that you've got to have people cheering you on. So here's a picture of my hubby cheering me on, actually cheering my daughter on, and then my son-in-law. So anyway, all people are part of your team, and it's so wonderful when you see them cheering you on. Also, when you're in the doctoral program or the master's program or bachelor's program, you need a lot of support, a lot of networking, because they're going through kind of the same pain that you are. And so it's kind of good to lean on each other and see the perspectives of everyone. So form a team, okay? At my age, I actually have wisdom now, okay? Because in your 50s, you know, you have a lot of experience that you can draw from. And there's a lot to be said for that. You don't really appreciate it until you get a little older, but I promise you, it comes in handy. But here's my first piece of advice to all you younger educators out there. Always remember that no one can do it all. The sooner you learn that, the sooner you'll be able to enjoy your life journey. So please, if you leave with anything, at least leave with this piece of advice, all right? Okay, you're gonna hear me talk a lot about words, the power of words. Well, here's one word, it's read. And this is from an example of my family. I have 3 children. Actually, one is 35, one is 28, and one is 18. And my 18-year-old, she hated to read. She hates to read, unless it's about basketball or sharks, okay? And so I was constantly telling her, come on, let's open the books, let's read, let's read, let's read, you know, you need to read, etc. And one day I was at work and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to remind her to read. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna not put a whole paragraph, I'm just gonna put one word, read. So I texted her and I said, read. And within about 10 seconds, she texted me right back. And here is her one word. Cook, she tells me. Okay, so that tells you a lot. Obviously, I don't cook a lot, okay? I like to cook sometimes, but I don't cook a lot. And but the power of these words tells you, you know, that all it takes is one word to convey a message. And so that day, guess what? She actually read and I actually cooked. So just one word can be life-changing, you know, one word that you tell someone. So remember that. Here's some words that I often use to help shape the culture at my schools or at my district. Don't stop believing, of course, because I'm an 80s girl, and so I've got to use my journey in there. Don't just become a person of success, but become a person of value. That was by Albert Einstein. I think that is so important because people can earn all sorts of awards and titles and all sorts of stuff, but if you don't become a person of value with it, then it's kind of a waste. So I like that statement. Know your students, no excuses. I have a picture right here of, there's 10 boys here. My previous superintendent, Conrado Garcia, he's a wonderful mentor. And there I am right there, somewhere right there. And we had these group of 13 boys. A couple of them are, 3 of them are not in here right now. But a teacher had emailed me saying she really needed some help. She had 13 boys in her English class. They were not doing anything they should be doing. They were refusing to write, refusing to do anything. And so I remember going to Mr. Garcia and I said, you know what, we need to mentor these 13 boys. Okay, they need probably a good male role model. They need something, you know, so let's get to know them. And sure enough, we did. And we found out that about 6 of them out of those 13 had recently, within the past couple of years, had either their mother or their father or the grandmother they were living with pass away. And so little did they know they had a lot in common. But there were also other issues affecting these 13 boys. But once we got to know them, then there was no excuse that we couldn't help them, you know. So, and believe it or not, by the end of the year, guess what? They were writing in her English class, and they were doing so much better. I was so proud of them. We were so proud of them. Okay, so the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. That's another one by that Cool, Mr. Einstein, okay, Albert Einstein. And so it's so true. Some people think, well, you know, I don't know why I got that grade, but they don't change anything, okay? So it's insane not to change anything. You got to try something different. Teamwork works. That's what I've said, you know, quite a bit. And I believe it's true because you can really divide and conquer. And as long as everyone on your team is doing their part, then there's no reason why success can't happen. Success will happen if your team works, okay? You'll at least have growth. If you don't get to your desired goal right away, you're going to at least have growth. But every person on your team has got to work. Teamwork works. To be the best, you have to give your best. That's my other one that I love to say. And that I learned it when I was in high school. In Kingsville, we had a marching band of 500 students, believe it or not. Yes, we used to take like 10 bus loads of band members and then our instruments to all the games, and people would just freak out. It was just a phenomenal band. But our band director was very, very strict, and he demanded that we do our best at all times. We had to give our best. And guess what? It paid off. It worked because we would win sweepstakes. We'd win all sorts of awards because he expected the best. I think timing is everything. That's another biggie. Like right now we're in a political climate, okay? And if you ask for some things, sometimes people will say, wait till after the election, wait till after the election. That's just one example of timing is everything. Also, when you're a kid, I'm not gonna ask my mom right now because she's in a bad mood. I'm not gonna ask my dad right now because he's in a bad mood. Well, we need to use kind of the same type of thinking mentality when we're requesting things or we're trying to plan something out. Faith makes things possible, not easy. Again, I'm a woman of faith. I walk by faith. And, I always say, even Jesus didn't have it easy. So, who am I? So I need to remember that all times whenever I'm struggling with something. And it helps me out. Don't be afraid, be ready. Face the facts. That is another biggie. I really believe that if we're trying to prepare for a test, and we don't do anything to be ready for it, well, then of course we're going to be afraid on the day of the test. And so it's extremely important that we are not afraid, but we're ready. And we need to face the facts. If things weren't done well, if we're at a campus that was struggled, and we didn't do well, we still got to face the facts. We got to look at the facts and then grow from there. So that's very, very important. A guiding principle I use is that school culture is a priority when you're a leader. You've got to convey, I convey through clear, consistent communication and relations. Every decision is made on the best interest of our students, and I'm always conveying that, to know my students, no excuses, and we get united. I believe gossip is a poison, and I truly believe that we have to get out the message first, so that way the message doesn't consume us, especially if it's misinformation. So that is one thing that I hold as a priority, is clear, consistent communication and develop those relationships. So at the time when there were several school shootings, remember in Santa Fe and in Florida, there was also some church shootings, I believe the Silver Springs, all that time, everybody was scared. We were all wondering, what can we do about school safety? Why do these school shootings keep happening? Obviously, the adults don't know what to do right now. And people kept asking me, well, how do you feel about guns? How do you feel about guns in the schools? How do you feel about teachers carrying guns? And that came up quite a bit. And I kept saying, it's not about the weapon, it's about the culture. Because even if somebody didn't have a gun, they could pick up a weapon and make a weapon out of a science experiment tool. So, it's not about the weapon. It's about the culture that we create at our campuses. Our students need to feel safe. Our staff needs to feel safe. But we have to have trust in each other that we're going to take care of each other. So we need to do things to help that happen. Our students are digital natives. They're living in a social media world, and if they're not part of it, they have this fear of missing out, the FOMO effect, okay? They also need to learn some social skills. They need to learn how to say hello. They need to learn how to convey their messages with their words and do it appropriately, okay? They need to learn how to handle stress through their voice, okay? So I truly believe that it is not about the weapon, it is about the culture. Okay, so one way that I believe students can voice their stresses, their opinions, their suggestions is by writing. I believe writing opens up the voices of students. I use Braille time to do that, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. I believe writing invites reflection, creativity, teamwork, brainstorming, and it invites us to get to know our kids, our students, okay? But when we do these types of writings, we cannot grade it, okay? Because then our students are going to stop. They're going to feel like this gate is closed. And so it's important that we do not grade it. So here's an example of some writings. When I was principal at W.B. Ray High School, we had what was called tea time. That was our Texan time because that was our mascot. And at West Oso, it was bear time because that was their mascot. And of course, at Kingsville, we have Brahma time. Well, I had our students write 2,000 letters, which means I had 2,000 of our students write one letter, okay? And I collected them because I had come on the intercom and I had told the students when the last shooting had happened at a school, I believe it was the Santa Fe one, the Florida one. And I had said, you know, students, we adults need help. We need to find out how we can stop school shootings or how we can prevent them. And this is your world, you're living in it, we need to hear from you. So I had them write letters to me. And being a former English teacher, okay, I was used to reading essays, 150 a week, all right? So this I knew I could conquer. Plus, I wanted our tea time teachers to also read the ones that their students had written. So here are just 3 of them that I'm going to share examples about. One student wrote, when a teenager can easily obtain an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, there is something wrong. There's something wrong when a mother doesn't know whether her child is dead or alive. There's something wrong when students hear gunshots instead of the end of the day bell. If we really want to make a difference, we have to use our voices. And if they don't hear us talking, then I guess we'll have to scream. Okay, so you could feel kind of the anger from the student's writing. This other student said, something is wrong when what happened is that they didn't give him help. They just expelled him. And this student was talking about the shooter, the school shooter. They didn't give him help. All they did was expel him when he was having problems. So he left, but guess what? He comes back and he shoots at the school. Here's another one from a student. Dear Ms. Perez, I just wanted to let you know how I feel about the horrible tragedy in Florida. After Valentine's, I was scared to come to school the next day. I can't go a day without being scared. I always have to look at the doors, or when I hear loud bang, it's even worse. I start getting anxiety and I want to go home. I would always love to come to school, but it's not easy anymore. I have 2 younger brothers and they're my world, Ms. Perez. It scares me to know they are not here, they're not near me at all times to protect them. I just want our school more secure and safe, so I won't have to be scared. So my brothers can finish school without worrying if they are going to be okay or not. Enough is enough. So these letters, these are just some examples of them telling us just how scared they were, how worried they were. And then we went on to asking them to give us some suggestions as well. So after they wrote the letters, what I did was I wanted to let the students know that we were listening to them, that we do hear them. And so I contacted our legislators and I hosted a town hall meeting there at our campus. And we told our students, this is going to be a town hall meeting. It's going to be a time for you to ask questions to your state legislators and give them some suggestions. And then we prepped them. We told them we need to make sure that when we're asking questions, we're looking for solutions. We're not here to bash anyone. We're here to talk and look for some solutions, offer some suggestions. So I was very blessed that I was able to get Representative Herrero, Senator Hinojosa, and Representative Todd Hunter to come and listen to our students. And it was very, very powerful. The students talked about school safety and they were listened to. The caller times, they covered all this for us, so you can always look up, I'm sure you can Google it and you can find out what worked, what helped us. I thought it was a very powerful time, about the school shooting era, and hopefully that has tapered down. That's one good thing that's come out of COVID, is that has stopped, but we never know when the next one will happen. So we've got to listen to our students. I was on the governor's roundtable for the school safety committee, and he was looking for suggestions from different representatives throughout the state of Texas. And look, there I am right there, and like right there. And then he's right here. And what he was doing was he was looking for suggestions about how we can prevent more school shootings. And with all the student letters that I had received, I collected some of the suggestions and I shared with the governor about 13 of them. Well, when I heard him doing his recap, he started naming several of the things that I had said. And so I started writing them down real fast because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. He actually listened, which is wonderful. So we had talked about staffing ratios. We talked about starting in kinder to develop school culture. We had talked about holding parents accountable and having more counselors. We really need more counselors. So from the power of words from the students' writings, it led to all this. So I thought this was a good way to connect the dots for you. Another way that we used writings is through trying to prevent teen suicides. Unfortunately, at the high school my daughter was going to, they had had 2 back-to-back suicides, and my daughter happened to know one of them, one of the students. She wasn't very close to her, but she knew her well enough that it affected all the students that knew the students that had committed suicide. And so when I reached out to, and I encouraged her to reach out to one of our legislators, which again was Todd Hunter, and I reached out to Dr. Scott Elliff, who is a professor here at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and we talked about we need to do something about teen suicide. Let's do some research. And so we had a task force of health professionals. We had a task force of some professors from the university, and of course students gathered together. And what we did was we had them write some suggestions about how to prevent suicide, how to prevent teen suicide. And here are several of the students. And they presented them, their words that they kind of came up with, their thoughts. And our task force submitted some proposals, some bill proposals. And guess what? We actually got 2 of them passed. One of them is the governor signed into law that Texas would honor, or actually use September, the month of September for the next 10 years as Suicide Prevention Month. So that way it would give permission for people to actually talk about this, and people wouldn't have to feel weird about talking about teen suicides or about suicides. And then the other one is House Bill 3980, and that one is the one where Texas can start collecting some real data about suicides. What we discovered is that Texas has almost 3 times the rate of the national average of suicides. And that's a pretty scary thought. So through all the words that we wrote, through the bill proposals we sent, we actually created some legislation. So that was helpful. So one way that you can do writings with students and get them to start writing for you is to carve out a time during your day. So at day 1 of me coming to Kingsville ISD, and of course at my other schools and districts before, what we did was we kicked off Brahma Time here. So the purpose of Brahma Time is to ensure that every student has a home away from home during school to be able to voice or express their opinions, concerns, or suggestions. Every campus will include a 13 to 15 minute period of time in their daily schedule when every teacher is assigned a small group of students. These students will be their Brahma Time students for the year. So like all communication about report cards, attendance, would be done during that time, but also talking about social emotional concerns. So through a character ed program, we want to kind of roll it out through Brahma Time, during Brahma Time. And like I said, it's very easy to create a 13-minute time because you can just take 2 minutes from every class period and just make a 13 to 15 minute class period where there's a bell and there's a bell. And they know, everybody knows that's sacred time. That is Brahma time, or that is whatever your mascot is. That is your time to work, meet with your students, talk with your students, really get to know them, and even have them write. So here's an example of a bear time we did. This was right after New Year's. And what we said was, holidays can sometimes be bittersweet. Ask your bear time teacher what bittersweet means, and then write a note to your bear time teacher expressing if your holiday was bitter or sweet. Remember to give some details about why it was either bitter or sweet. So this encourages students to write. They know they're going to have an audience, and they know to add some details. And we try to anticipate any words that they might not know what they mean, especially when we're doing this from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. So every grade level gets this same writing prompt during Brahma time or bear time or whatever your time is during your mascot time. So here's an example of what that student wrote, a student wrote about that prompt. It says, my holiday was kind of bitter because around the holidays is when I start missing the people that meant the most to me. When I was little, my dad left, and sometimes I wonder, what if it was different? I also try not to be thinking about it and act tough, but it's hard. Before Thanksgiving break, I saw my grandma. She didn't want to talk to me, so I don't really care, but deep down, I wish it was different. Okay, my dad got locked up since 2008. He doesn't want nothing to do with me when he gets out. I don't even think he'll want to contact me, but I'll be good. I don't really like talking about it to people. I'll always be laughing, but deep down, I got pain that will never go away. I'm glad I get to share. So this was very powerful because it let this bear time teacher know a little more about her student. And I bet after reading some other letters, she found that several students probably have this similar type of predicament in common. And so it's very powerful. These words can be used to help shape the culture of that bear time class. So this year, because we're in a virtual time, this is what I had our students write. It says, the first day of school is a little different this year. It may seem a bit scary, but instead of being afraid, let's be ready. Write or type a note to your Brahma time teacher. And the reason I said type is because we're in remote learning, telling him or her what you are most nervous or concerned about. Include suggestions that you can give to your Brahma time teacher or your principal that they can do to help this be your best school year ever. And so we got some really good suggestions, and our teachers were able to implement them. So this was a very helpful writing prompt. And again, this is just one example. Okay, as a principal, I just sent one example and I would send it to the entire staff. That's the beauty of email. That's the way I'm doing as a superintendent. I'm doing the same thing. I sent this to all our teachers from grades pre-K on up. And for the little pre-Kers who can't write a whole thing, they can draw or they can show pictures and have that communication, have their words expressed in that way. So we've come to the end. I just want to remind you that know your students, no excuses. Their writing is their voice, and it's a very easy way for you to get to learn about them. Allow them to express it and show them that you actually value it. It'll mean so much to them, and it'll really help form your culture, a positive culture, a trusting culture. This is an easy to implement strategy for teachers and leaders to help create a positive culture. Remember that teamwork works, and if everybody does this, you'll see your culture shaping beautifully. Feel free to contact me at any time. I'm Dr. Cissy Reynolds-Perez. Here is my email address. Again, I welcome your messages. I would love to hear from you, and I hope you have a great SUPCE conference. I know it's going to be wonderful and exciting, and I thank you for serving in this mission of becoming an educator. You are truly appreciated. Have a great day.